Nick Newman had heard a lot of insults in his life. Weak, reckless, spoiled, lost. But nothing hit harder than hearing his own father say it to his face while the entire Newman ranch sat in dead silence around them. "You're slipping again," Victor Newman growled. "And this time, I don't think you can hide it." Nick's jaw tightened instantly. His hands shook ever so slightly around the whiskey glass he wasn't supposed to be holding, and Victor noticed. Of course he did. The room felt suffocating, heavy, like every bad decision Nick had ever made was standing right there beside him. But what Victor didn't know yet was that Nick had already crossed a line he could never uncross. And somewhere out there in Genoa City, Matt Clark was getting closer. Closer to Sharon. Closer to the Newman family. Closer to revenge. Nick slowly set the glass down. "You don't know what you're talking about." Victor stepped forward. "No? Then explain why you smell like a damn bar at noon." The tension exploded instantly. Nicky looked terrified. Victoria stood near the fireplace, arms folded, watching the confrontation spiral out of control. And Adam Newman looked almost amused. That made Nick even angrier. "You want to judge me?" Nick snapped at Victor. "Maybe start with your perfect son over there." Adam's smirk disappeared immediately. Victor's expression darkened. "This isn't about Adam." "It's always about Adam!" Nick slammed his hand against the table, hard enough to rattle the glasses. "You trust him no matter what he does. Me? One bad day and suddenly I'm a failure again." Victor's voice lowered dangerously. "This is bigger than one bad day." Nick froze, because for one horrifying second, he wondered if Victor somehow knew about the meeting, knew about the deal, knew about the phone call Nick received 2 nights earlier, a call connected to Matt Clark. Nick looked away first, and Victor noticed that too. The great Victor Newman rarely missed anything, especially weakness. Nicky quickly stepped between them. "That's enough, both of you." But the damage was already done. Nick grabbed his jacket. "I don't need this." "No," Victor replied coldly. "What you need is help." Nick stormed out before anyone could stop him. But Adam followed him outside, and that was the last thing Nick wanted. The cold air hit hard as Nick walked toward his car. "Rough day?" Adam asked casually behind him. Nick didn't even turn around. "Go away." Adam moved closer anyway. "You know, Dad's not completely wrong." That did it. Nick spun around instantly. "You really want to lecture me now?" Adam's expression sharpened. "I'm trying to tell you that you're unraveling." Nick laughed bitterly. "Funny coming from you." "Maybe, but at least I know when I'm spiraling." For a second, neither brother spoke. Years of resentment hung between them. Old betrayals, old wounds, old wars. Then Adam lowered his voice. "This about Sharon?" Nick's eyes flickered, tiny movement, but Adam saw it. "Thought so," Adam murmured. Nick rubbed his face tiredly. "You don't know anything. I know Matt Clark resurfacing has everybody on edge, especially you." The mention of Matt changed everything. Nick's posture stiffened immediately. Because Adam was right. Matt Clark wasn't just another threat. He was dangerous in ways most people didn't understand, and Sharon had already suffered enough because of him. Nick had promised himself he would protect her no matter what, even if it destroyed him. Adam studied him carefully. "What aren't you telling us?" Nick stayed silent. That silence was answer enough. Adam suddenly stepped closer. "What did you do?" Nick's breathing slowed, measured, controlled. But internally, panic was rising fast because he had done something terrible, something desperate, and now he wasn't sure he could stop what came next. Earlier that week, Nick received a burner phone call while sitting alone at Crimson Lights. A distorted voice gave him instructions. "Come alone, no police, no Newman security. If you want information about Matt Clark, you'll listen carefully." Nick should have walked away. He knew that, but Sharon's safety mattered more. So he went. An abandoned warehouse on the edge of town, dark, cold, empty except for one man waiting in the shadows. The man never gave his name, but he knew things about Matt Clark, his movements, his contacts, his plans. And then came the price. "You want our help finding him?" the stranger asked. "Then you give us something in return." Nick immediately knew it was a trap, but he listened anyway, because desperation changes people. The stranger leaned forward. "We need access to Newman's shipping records." Nick's blood ran cold. "That's never happening." The man shrugged calmly. "Then Sharon stays vulnerable." Nick should have left right then. Instead, he hesitated, and that hesitation changed everything. Back in the present, Adam stared at his brother. "You're scaring me, Nick." Nick scoffed. "That'd be a first." "I'm serious." Adam rarely sounded sincere. That was what made it unsettling. Nick looked exhausted, broken down, like a man carrying too much weight alone. "You ever feel like no matter what you do, disaster follows?" Nick asked quietly. Adam blinked in surprise. Then he answered honestly. "Every day." Nick laughed softly at that, but there was no happiness in it, only pain. Then his phone buzzed. Nick checked the screen. Unknown number. Again. His stomach dropped instantly. Adam noticed. "Who is it?" Nick shoved the phone into his pocket. No one. But Adam knew better, and unfortunately, so did Victor. Because from inside the ranch house window, Victor Newman had been watching everything. Every expression, every movement, every lie. Victor turned toward Michael Baldwin immediately. "He's hiding something." Michael nodded carefully. "You think it connects to Matt Clark?" Victor's eyes darkened. "I know it does." Meanwhile, Sharon Newman had no idea just how dangerous things were becoming around her. She sat alone at home, trying to focus on normal life, trying to breathe, trying to convince herself the nightmare was over. But fear still lingered. Matt Clark had already caused chaos before. And deep down, Sharon knew unstable men rarely disappear quietly. Her phone rang suddenly. She answered carefully. "Hello?" Silence. Then breathing. Slow breathing. Sharon's face drained of color instantly. "Who is this?" More silence. Then the line disconnected. Sharon stood frozen, terrified. At that exact moment, Nick drove across town with his grip tightening around the steering wheel. His phone buzzed again. Another message. 3 words. Tick, tock, Nick. His pulse exploded. Whoever was behind this wasn't playing games anymore, and they clearly knew how to get inside his head. Nick immediately called the number back. No answer. He cursed under his breath. Then another message appeared. "Tonight, midnight, come alone." Nick slammed the brakes hard at a red light. This was spiraling fast, too fast. He should tell Victor, tell Chance, tell somebody. But if he did, Sharon could become a target. Nick couldn't risk that. Not again. At Newman Enterprises the next morning, Victoria cornered Adam outside the office. "What happened with Nick?" Adam looked uneasy. "He's hiding something serious." Victoria frowned immediately. "Serious how?" "I don't know yet, but Dad's right to worry." Victoria crossed her arms tightly. Nick struggling with sobriety was already bad enough. But secrets? Dangerous secrets? That was worse, especially in Genoa City, especially with Matt Clark involved. Victoria lowered her voice. "You think Nick fell off the wagon completely?" Adam hesitated. "I think he's trying not to." That answer said everything. Later that afternoon, Nick finally visited Sharon. The second she opened the door, she saw it on his face. Fear, stress, exhaustion. "Nick, what's wrong?" He forced a smile. "Nothing." She didn't buy it for 1 second. "You're lying." Nick looked away, and Sharon's anxiety immediately grew stronger. Then she quietly told him about the phone call. Nick's heart nearly stopped. What did the voice sound like? I don't know. Distorted, maybe? Nick turned pale, because suddenly the danger became real in a completely different way. This wasn't just about him anymore. Someone was circling Sharon, too. And that meant time was running out. Sharon stepped closer. Nick, tell me what's happening. He wanted to. God, he wanted to. But if he told her everything, she might never forgive him. Because Nick Newman had already made the deal. Not fully, not officially, but enough. Enough to open a door that should have stayed locked forever. And somewhere in the shadows, someone was waiting for him to finish the job. Nick barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Sharon terrified. Saw Victor disappointed. Saw Adam looking at him like he was falling apart. Maybe they were all right. Maybe he was falling apart. The clock hit 11:37 p.m. when Nick finally grabbed his keys and walked out of the house. No security, no backup, no family. Exactly the way the mysterious caller demanded. Rain poured over Genoa City as Nick drove toward the abandoned industrial district again. His heartbeat pounded harder with every mile. This was insane, and he knew it. But he couldn't stop now, not after Sharon's phone call, not after the threats, not after everything. Nick parked near the warehouse and stepped out carefully. Darkness swallowed the entire area. Then a voice emerged from the shadows. Right on time. Nick turned sharply. The same man stepped forward, wearing a black jacket and gloves, still hiding most of his face. Nick's patience snapped immediately. Enough games. Tell me where Matt Clark is. The stranger chuckled softly. You're in no position to make demands. Nick stepped closer aggressively. You said you had information. I do. The man pulled out a folder, thin, but enough to make Nick freeze. Photos, security images, travel records. Matt Clark. Nick grabbed the folder instantly and flipped through it. His blood turned cold. Matt had been closer than anyone realized, watching, following, waiting. One photo showed Sharon outside Crimson Lights only 2 days earlier. Nick looked furious. How long has he been stalking her? That depends how cooperative you want to be. Nick clenched his jaw. There it is. The stranger tilted his head. Newman shipping access, one internal route. That's all we need. Nick stared at him. This isn't about Matt Clark. The man smiled faintly. Everything is about leverage. Nick suddenly understood. He wasn't dealing with someone hunting Matt. He was dealing with people using Matt as bait, and Nick had walked straight into it. You set me up. No, the man replied calmly. We found a desperate man and gave him options. Nick's breathing grew heavier. Because part of that was true. He had become desperate. Desperate enough to risk everything. The stranger extended a flash drive toward him. You have until tomorrow night. Nick didn't take it. I should turn you in. And tell Victor Newman why you met us twice already? Nick went silent. The stranger's smile widened slightly. Exactly. Then headlights suddenly flashed across the warehouse windows. Both men turned instantly. A car, coming fast. The stranger cursed. You brought someone? No! But the stranger already disappeared into the darkness. Nick ran after him. Too late. Gone. Then another vehicle pulled into the lot hard. Nick froze when he saw who stepped out. Adam. Nick looked stunned. You followed me? Adam stormed toward him furiously. Are you out of your mind? Nick shoved the folder behind his back instinctively. Adam noticed immediately. Oh my God. It's not what you think. That's always the line right before disaster. Rain soaked both brothers as tension exploded again. Adam pointed toward the warehouse. Who were you meeting? No one. Stop lying, Nick finally snapped back. I'm trying to protect Sharon. Adam froze. For one brief second, the truth cracked through. Enough for Adam to see genuine fear in his brother's eyes. Then Adam lowered his voice. Nick, what did they ask you to do? Nick stayed silent. and Adam's face slowly changed from anger to alarm. Oh no. Nick looked away. Adam grabbed his arm immediately. You cannot involve Newman business in this. I don't have a choice. There's always a choice. Nick laughed bitterly. You think that because Dad always cleans up your messes. Adam's expression hardened. And what about yours? That hit hard. Too hard. Nick shoved Adam back angrily. At least I'm trying to save someone, Adam shouted right back. And you're going to destroy yourself doing it. The brothers stood there breathing heavily in the rain, years of history crashing between them. Then Adam saw it. The shaking hands, the exhausted eyes, the emotional collapse Nick was desperately trying to hide. Adam's voice softened slightly. Have you been drinking again? Nick didn't answer immediately, which was answer enough. Adam closed his eyes briefly in frustration. Damn it, Nick. Nick looked ashamed, and angry at himself for feeling ashamed. I had one drink. Adam scoffed. That's how it starts. Nick hated hearing that, because deep down, he knew Adam understood addiction more than most people realized. Adam stepped closer again. You need help. No, I need Matt Clark stopped. And what happens after that? Nick had no answer, because maybe there wasn't one. The next morning, Victor Newman received surveillance photos on his desk. Photos of Nick at the warehouse. Photos of the unknown man. Photos of Adam arriving later. Victor's face turned ice cold instantly. Michael Baldwin looked concerned. This is getting dangerous. Victor nodded slowly. Nick is being manipulated. Do we intervene? Victor stood up immediately. Oh, we intervene now. Meanwhile, Sharon sat at Crimson Lights, trying to calm herself with coffee she barely touched. Her nerves were wrecked. The phone call, the silence, the feeling of being watched. Everything felt wrong. Then Chance Chancellor walked in, and one look at Sharon told him everything. You okay? She forced a weak smile. Not really. Chance sat across from her. We're still tracking Matt Clark. But? Chance hesitated. That man knows how to disappear. Sharon looked down quietly. Fear crept back into her eyes. Chance noticed. Did something happen? She almost told him, almost mentioned the phone call, but then she remembered Nick's strange behavior too. And suddenly one terrifying thought hit her. What if Nick was hiding something to protect her? Later that day, Victor confronted Nick privately at Newman Enterprises. No warmth, no patience, just fury. Victor tossed the warehouse photos onto the desk. Nick stared at them in horror. You had me followed? Victor ignored the question completely. Who are these people? Nick stayed silent. Victor slammed his fist onto the desk. You are risking this family! Nick fired back instantly. I'm trying to save it! By making deals with criminals? Nick froze. Victor's eyes narrowed. Got him. You already made the deal, Victor realized quietly. Nick looked trapped, like there was no way out anymore. Victor walked closer, slowly. If you compromise this company, it's not about the company. It's always about the company. Nick laughed bitterly again. That's the problem with you, Dad. You think business matters more than people. Victor's voice turned deadly calm. And you think emotion excuses stupidity. The silence between them felt brutal. Then Victor delivered the line that shattered Nick completely. You are becoming weak. Nick's eyes darkened instantly. There it is. The truth? The judgment. Victor stared directly at him. A Newman protects his family without destroying himself in the process. Nick's voice cracked slightly. You think I don't know that? For the first time, Victor saw real pain behind the anger. Not rebellion, not arrogance. Fear. Nick looked exhausted beyond words, and Victor finally realized how deep this crisis had become. But before Victor could say another word, Nick's phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Nick's face lost all color. Victor noticed immediately. "Answer it." Nick hesitated. "Answer it!" Nick finally picked up. Silence. Then a distorted voice spoke. "We're running out of patience." Nick gripped the phone tightly. "What do you want?" The voice answered calmly. "Midnight. Final chance." Then the line disconnected. Victor's expression turned terrifying. "Who was that?" Nick slowly lowered the phone, and for the first time, he finally told the truth. "They have Sharon under surveillance." Victor's anger shifted instantly into something colder, something far more dangerous. Victor Newman now understood this wasn't just blackmail. This was war. Elsewhere, Sharon returned home unaware she was being watched from across the street. A dark figure sat inside a parked car, waiting, watching, patient. A phone glowed inside the darkness. One message appeared on the screen. "Nick Newman is almost ready." The figure slowly smiled. Then another message arrived moments later. "Proceed to phase 2." Inside her house, Sharon suddenly stopped moving. A strange feeling washed over her, like someone was outside, watching. She slowly walked toward the window, heart pounding, fear rising. And just as Sharon pulled the curtain aside, the parked car sped away into the night, leaving behind only one terrifying question. Was Nick already too late to stop what was coming next?